The arrival of the unstoppable alien fleet. The galaxy had known peace for centuries, until the Zorians arrived. Renowned as the ultimate warriors, the Zorians had conquered countless worlds, leaving none capable of resisting their might. Their queen, Asura, was a name spoken in whispers, feared even by the bravest of warriors. Her strength was unparalleled, her strategies brilliant, and her pride unshakable. For the Zorians, every conquest was a display of their dominance, a testament to their superiority. When their fleet entered Earth's orbit, their intentions were unmistakable. Massive, gleaming ships hovered ominously in the skies, casting shadows that seemed to swallow entire cities. Their message was delivered in every language, booming through Earth's communication systems: "We are the Zorians. Your world will prove its worth, or it will fall." Humanity was stunned. Panic spread like wildfire, but amidst the fear, a spark of defiance ignited. Governments from around the world convened, scrambling to find a way to respond. Submitting wasn't an option. Humanity had fought too hard to reach the stars, and giving up now would mean more than losing their planet, it would mean losing their identity. The Zorians didn't come to destroy immediately. Instead, Queen Asura had issued a challenge, a series of trials to prove humanity's worth. It wasn't mercy, it was entertainment. The Zorians thrived on proving their dominance not just through war, but by humiliating their opponents in contests of strength, skill, and courage. The queen believed no species could rival her warriors, let alone a species as fragile as humans. But the human leaders had a proposal: the trials wouldn't just test physical strength. They would include strategy, adaptability, and ingenuity, qualities humans believed were their greatest assets. If the Zorians truly wanted to measure Earth's worth, they would need to compete on equal grounds. Queen Asura smirked at the proposal. "You dare suggest conditions for your survival?" she scoffed, her voice echoing across continents. "Very well. We will entertain your terms. But understand this: if you fail, your planet will belong to us, and there will be no mercy." The stakes were set. Earth's future hung by a thread, and the world watched with bated breath. Enter Ethan. Amidst the chaos of preparation, Ethan found himself in a position he never anticipated. A scientist specializing in biomechanics, he had no military experience, no combat training. Yet, when Earth's leaders sought representatives for the trials, they realized they needed more than warriors, they needed thinkers, innovators, and problem solvers. Ethan's quick thinking and ability to adapt made him an unexpected but vital choice. "Me?" Ethan had asked when approached. "I'm not a soldier. What can I do against them?" A general had replied with a grim smile, "We don't need you to fight like them. We need you to think like us." Ethan was skeptical, but he couldn't refuse. The team was diverse, a collection of athletes, engineers, soldiers, and everyday citizens with unique skills. Each brought something crucial to the table. Together, they were humanity's last hope. The world holds its breath. The day of the first trial arrived. Earth's skies were dominated by a colossal floating arena constructed by the Zorians. It shimmered with an alien glow, an architectural marvel that hinted at the technological prowess of its creators. Millions of humans tuned in to watch, their screens broadcasting every second of the event. Hope mingled with fear in every household. On one side of the arena, the Zorian warriors stood tall, their metallic armor gleaming under artificial sunlight. Each of them towered over the humans, their confidence palpable. Queen Asura stood at the forefront, her piercing gaze scanning the human team. She saw weakness, fragility, and she relished the thought of crushing them. On the other side, Ethan and his team stood in stark contrast. Their expressions ranged from fear to determination. Ethan, at the center, took a deep breath, his mind racing. This wasn't just about survival, it was about proving that humanity was more than what the Zorians thought. The first trial, a race like no other. Asura's voice boomed through the arena. "Your first trial will test your speed and resilience." The goal is simple: retrieve the banner at the center of the arena and return it to your starting point. Whoever succeeds first claims victory. The arena transformed before their eyes, its floor shifting and morphing into a chaotic landscape. Rivers flowed through jagged cliffs, dense forests sprouted in seconds, and massive boulders blocked paths. It wasn't just a race, it was an obstacle course designed to push both teams to their limits. The Zorians, with their powerful physiques, charged forward immediately, their movements swift and calculated. They relied on brute force, smashing through obstacles with ease. Ethan, however, held his team back. "Wait," he said, scanning the terrain. "If we rush in, we'll play their game. We need to think this through." The power of strategy. As the Zorians surged ahead, smashing through barriers and leaping across rivers, Ethan and his team took a different approach. A former soldier on the team, Sarah, noticed a natural path through the forest. "If we use this route, we can avoid most of the obstacles," she suggested. Ethan nodded. "Good. Let's focus on efficiency, not speed." The team moved together, using their collective skills to navigate the terrain. An engineer on the team crafted makeshift tools to clear smaller obstacles, while an athlete used her agility to scout ahead. As the Zorians reached the flag first, their confidence soared, until they encountered a massive, unexpected ravine. The ground had split, leaving a gaping chasm between them and their starting point. It wasn't on the map, and their brute force couldn't solve the problem. Ethan's team, however, had anticipated such traps. Spotting a narrow bridge of rocks further along the ravine, they quickly adjusted their path. Working together, they crossed with care, the flag firmly in hand. A shocking victory. The Zorians, scrambling to find a way around the ravine, were too slow. Ethan's team crossed the finish line first, holding the banner high. The arena erupted in cheers from Earth's side, while the Zorians stood in stunned silence. Queen Asura's eyes narrowed. For the first time, doubt flickered in her mind. She had expected an easy victory, but the humans had surprised her. Ethan, catching his breath, turned to his team. "That's one," he said with a small smile. "Let's show them what humanity is really made of." The first trial was over, but the battle was far from finished. Survival in the Desert of Despair. The Zorians had underestimated humanity once, but Queen Asura vowed it would not happen again. She stepped forward, her towering figure radiating determination as the next trial was announced. "This challenge," she proclaimed, her voice echoing across the arena and reaching the millions of viewers on Earth, "is not just about strength or speed. It is about endurance and survival. Before you lies the Desert of Despair, a treacherous wasteland that stretches farther than the eye can see. Your task is simple: cross it. The first to reach the far side will be declared the victor." The vast desert materialized before their eyes, a golden expanse shimmering under the glare of twin suns. Heat waves distorted the horizon, and the air itself seemed heavy, oppressive. The Zorians stood tall, their confidence unshaken. Survival was second nature to them, they thrived in harsh conditions. On the other side, Ethan and his team prepared themselves. The scorching sun bore down on them, but the team remained focused. Ethan adjusted the straps on his gear and turned to his team, his voice steady. "We've faced heat waves before," he said, referencing their grueling training. "This isn't just about getting to the end first, it's about getting there smart. Stick together, conserve your energy, and remember, the desert is as much our opponent as the Zorians." The Zorian charge. The trial began with a deafening horn, and the Zorians wasted no time. They charged into the desert like a force of nature, their powerful strides kicking up clouds of sand. Their muscular forms were seemingly impervious to the searing heat, and they didn't even slow as the terrain became more challenging. Queen Asura led the charge, her pace relentless. She didn't just want to win, she wanted to crush humanity's spirit. Ethan's strategy. Ethan, however, had no intention of trying to match the Zorians' raw power. He knew that kind of effort would be suicide in such an environment. Instead, he relied on careful planning. "Emma," Ethan said, addressing the team's survival expert, "you've studied these conditions. Lead the way." Emma nodded, her sharp eyes scanning the terrain. "The heat will be our biggest enemy. Stick to the shadows where we can, and don't run unless absolutely necessary. Everyone drink water sparingly, hydrate but don't waste it." The team moved at a steady pace, their path weaving through dunes and rocky outcroppings. Unlike the Zorians, who aimed for a straight shot, Ethan's team focused on staying cool and conserving energy. The heat takes its toll. As hours passed, the desert began to show its true nature. The heat was relentless, sapping energy and willpower. The sand burned beneath their feet, and every breath felt like inhaling fire. The Zorians, initially unstoppable, began to falter. Their incredible strength became their weakness as their massive frames required more energy to keep moving. The unrelenting sun battered them, and their speed began to slow. Ethan's team, meanwhile, maintained their pace. Whenever they found a rocky outcrop or a cluster of dried vegetation, they rested briefly in the shade, cooling their bodies and sharing sips of water. Emma kept them moving with a calculated rhythm, ensuring no one pushed beyond their limits. Unexpected challenges. Midway through the desert, the ground began to shift. Quick sand traps hidden beneath seemingly stable dunes claimed several members of the Zorian team, forcing them to work together to pull their comrades free. Ethan's team encountered the same hazards, but their approach was different. A team member named Carlos, an engineer, had brought lightweight grappling hooks and ropes. Using these tools, they navigated the quicksand with precision, bypassing the dangers with minimal effort. "We don't need to beat them," Carlos said, wiping sweat from his brow. "We just need to outlast them." The final push. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the desert, the finish line came into view. A massive stone archway stood on the horizon, marking the end of the trial. Queen Asura, leading her warriors, was the first to spot it. Summoning her remaining strength, she roared an order to her team. "Push forward. Victory is near." But the Zorians were exhausted. Their pride and brute strength had carried them far, but the unforgiving desert had taken its toll. Several warriors collapsed, their bodies unable to handle the strain. Ethan's team, though equally weary, had conserved just enough energy for the final stretch. "Stay together," Ethan urged, his voice hoarse but firm. "This is it. One last push." They moved as one, each supporting the other. Emma and Carlos helped a struggling Sarah to her feet, while Ethan kept his eyes on the archway, refusing to let exhaustion win. Victory through resilience. In the end, it was teamwork and strategy that triumphed. Ethan's team crossed the finish line moments before the Zorians. The sight of the humans, battered but victorious, sent shockwaves across the galaxy. As Queen Asura arrived, her pride was visibly wounded. She stared at the humans, her disbelief palpable. "Impossible," she muttered under her breath. Ethan, still catching his breath, turned to face her. "It's not about strength," he said. "It's about endurance. And we're just getting started." The desert had been a test of survival, but for humanity, it had been more than that. It was a declaration to the universe: humans might not be the strongest, but they were relentless, adaptable, and determined. The maze of minds. The Zorians were a race of warriors, their strength unmatched and their pride unyielding. But after 2 consecutive defeats at the hands of humanity, Queen Asura's confidence began to waver. It wasn't that the humans were stronger, no, they were far weaker in every measurable way. Yet somehow, they kept winning. And that infuriated her. "This ends now," Asura declared, her voice cutting through the charged air of the arena. "The third trial will be one of intellect and ingenuity. It will separate the truly superior from the weak pretenders. The arena shimmered, its metallic walls rearranging themselves into a towering labyrinth that stretched endlessly in all directions. Bright beams of alien light illuminated the structure, casting eerie shadows that seemed to taunt those standing at the entrance. Ethan and his team exchanged nervous glances. A maze was not just a physical challenge, it was a test of logic, creativity, and decision-making under pressure. The rules of the maze. Asura's voice echoed through the arena. The maze of minds will challenge your ability to solve puzzles, navigate obstacles, and adapt to the unknown. The first team to reach the center will be declared the winner. But beware, this is no ordinary maze. It is alive, constantly shifting, and full of traps designed to exploit your weaknesses. Good luck, you'll need it. Ethan took a deep breath. He glanced at his team, trying to project confidence despite the tight knot forming in his stomach. Remember, he said, this isn't just about getting to the center, it's about how we get there. Stay calm, think things through, and, most importantly, stick together. On the other side of the arena, the Zorians stood in stoic silence. They didn't need words, their sheer presence exuded confidence. They were ready to crush whatever stood in their way. The maze comes alive. As soon as the signal was given, the maze roared to life. The walls shifted, openings closed, and paths that had been clear moments before were now dead ends. The Zorians charged in with their characteristic brute force, smashing through barriers and leaping over obstacles with ease. Ethan's team, however, took a different approach. Emma, the team's scientist, stepped forward, her eyes scanning the intricate patterns on the walls. This maze isn't random, she said, her voice sharp with realization. It's designed to respond to our movements. If we rush in like they are, it'll trap us. Ethan nodded. Then we don't rush. We analyze. Emma, you take the lead. The first puzzle, a door without a key. The team's first major obstacle was a massive metallic door, its surface etched with glowing symbols. There was no visible keyhole, lever, or mechanism to open it, just the symbols, glowing faintly in a rhythmic pattern. Emma crouched in front of the door, studying the symbols. It's a sequence, she muttered, her fingers tracing the glowing lines. It's pulsing in intervals of 3, no, wait, 5. We need to match the pattern. While Emma worked, the rest of the team kept an eye on their surroundings. The walls around them groaned and shifted, narrowing the space with each passing second. Emma, hurry. Sarah, the former soldier, urged, her voice tense. I'm almost there, Emma replied, her hands moving quickly across the glowing symbols. With a final press, the door slid open with a hiss, revealing the next section of the maze. Move! Ethan shouted, and the team rushed through, the walls behind them slamming shut. The Zorian struggle. Meanwhile, the Zorians had made significant progress, but not without difficulty. Their brute force tactics, while effective at first, began to backfire. In their impatience, they triggered traps hidden within the maze. Explosions of smoke and bursts of energy slowed their momentum, forcing them to recalibrate their approach. Queen Asura, who had remained outside the maze to monitor her team's progress, frowned as she watched the humans' careful, calculated movements. She had underestimated their ability to think on their feet. The labyrinth's deception. As the humans pressed deeper into the maze, the challenges grew more complex. They encountered a room filled with shifting platforms, each moving in a seemingly random pattern. Below them, a glowing abyss threatened to swallow anyone who misstepped. This is a logic problem, Carlos, the engineer, said, his eyes scanning the platforms. The platforms aren't random, they're following a sequence. Ethan nodded. Figure it out, Carlos. We'll follow your lead. Carlos studied the movements for a moment before stepping onto the first platform. It shifted under his weight but didn't fall. He moved quickly, calling out instructions to the others as he navigated the sequence. One by one, the team followed, their hearts pounding as they leaped from platform to platform. The center of the maze. After what felt like hours, Ethan's team reached the final stretch of the maze. The path ahead split into 3 corridors, each identical in appearance. At the entrance to each corridor stood a holographic figure, each speaking riddles that contradicted the others. "This is a classic logic puzzle," Emma said, her mind racing. "One of them tells the truth, and the others lie. We need to figure out which one is truthful to choose the right path." The team huddled together, analyzing the riddles and piecing together the clues. Meanwhile, the sounds of the Zorians' heavy footsteps grew closer, they were catching up. "Hurry," Ethan urged, his voice low but firm. Emma's eyes lit up as the solution clicked. "It's the middle path," she said with certainty. Without hesitation, the team charged forward, leaving the other corridors behind. Victory claimed. The center of the maze was a glowing chamber filled with alien light and intricate carvings. Ethan and his team burst into the room, their breaths ragged but victorious. Moments later, the Zorians arrived, their frustration evident as they realized they had lost yet another trial. Queen Asura's pride was visibly shaken as she stepped forward, her piercing gaze fixed on Ethan. "You think this is over?" she hissed. Ethan, still catching his breath, met her gaze. "No," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "It's just beginning." The maze had tested their minds, but it was also a test of willpower and unity. Humanity had triumphed again, proving that they were more than just survivors, they were thinkers, strategists, and creators. The galaxy watched in awe, and for the first time, the Zorians began to wonder if they had underestimated humanity's true potential. The Queen's Gambit. Queen Asura was no stranger to defeat, but twice in a row. That was a humiliation she could not tolerate. Her flawless record had been blemished, and the galaxy, watching intently, had seen it all. Humanity had proven their strength and intellect, but Asura wasn't finished. If humans wanted to play this game, she would change the rules entirely. "This next trial," Asura announced with a calculated smile, "will push you to your limits. Your lives will depend on your ability to adapt, or perish. Welcome to the Queen's Gambit." The arena darkened, its walls melting away to reveal a massive alien wilderness. A foreboding jungle stretched endlessly, illuminated by the faint glow of bioluminescent plants. Strange roars echoed in the distance, and the rustling of unseen creatures added to the tension. "This jungle is alive," Asura explained, her voice sharp with menace. "It is my personal creation, designed to hunt, confuse, and destroy those who enter. Your objective is simple: survive and find the artifact hidden deep within. The first to retrieve it will claim victory. But beware, this trial will show no mercy." Ethan exchanged a glance with his team. The stakes had never been higher. Entering the unknown. The signal to begin blared, and the two teams stepped into the jungle. Ethan's team moved cautiously, their senses heightened as they took in the alien terrain. Massive trees with glowing leaves loomed overhead, their roots twisting across the ground like living snakes. The air was thick and humid, making every breath feel like a struggle. "Stay close," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." On the other side of the jungle, the Zorians charged ahead, their confidence unshaken despite their earlier losses. They relied on their superior strength and reflexes, tearing through dense foliage and ignoring the dangers lurking in the shadows. The jungle fights back. It didn't take long for the jungle to reveal its hostility. The Zorians were the first to encounter trouble. A swarm of insect-like creatures with razor-sharp mandibles descended from the trees. Their armor protected them from the initial attack, but the creatures adapted quickly, targeting weak points and overwhelming the warriors. Asura's warriors fought back, their brute strength helping them escape the swarm, but not without losses. 2 warriors were dragged away into the darkness, their cries fading into silence. Ethan's team, meanwhile, had taken a different approach. Emma, ever the strategist, had spotted the signs of the swarm ahead, a faint hum in the air and shimmering trails left by the insects. "Don't engage," she warned. "They're territorial. If we avoid their nests, they won't bother us." Following Emma's lead, the team navigated around the danger, their careful movements saving them from the same fate as the Zorians. The first trap. Deeper into the jungle, the team encountered their first major obstacle, a massive ravine, its edges slick with alien moss. Suspended across it was a fragile-looking bridge made of vines and glowing crystals. Carlos, the engineer, examined the structure. "This thing won't hold our weight," he said. "We'll need to reinforce it or find another way across." The team worked together, using materials from the jungle to strengthen the bridge. Sarah, the soldier, kept watch, her keen eyes scanning the shadows for movement. "Something's coming," she whispered. Before she could finish, a hulking creature burst from the trees, a massive predator with razor-sharp claws and glowing eyes. It let out a deafening roar, its gaze locking onto the humans. "Run!" Ethan shouted, grabbing the nearest weapon, a makeshift spear Carlos had crafted. A test of courage. As the predator charged, Ethan stood his ground, distracting it long enough for his team to cross the reinforced bridge. The creature lunged, its claws slicing through the air, but Ethan dodged with agility born of desperation. "Ethan, move!" Sarah shouted from the other side, aiming a small energy blaster she had salvaged from their supplies. With a well-placed shot, Sarah hit the creature's leg, sending it crashing to the ground. Ethan took the chance to retreat, crossing the bridge just as the beast recovered. The team cut the vines behind them, sending the bridge, and the predator, plummeting into the ravine below. The artifact's guardians. The team pressed on, their bodies weary but their determination unshaken. They reached a clearing where the jungle opened up to reveal an ancient, glowing temple. At its center, the artifact pulsed with energy, a small, crystalline orb hovering above a pedestal. But they weren't alone. The Zorians had arrived moments earlier, their numbers reduced but their spirits unbroken. Queen Asra herself had joined them, her expression cold and calculating. "So," Asra said, her voice dripping with disdain, "you've made it this far. Impressive, for humans." Ethan stepped forward, his team flanking him. "This isn't over yet," he replied, his tone steady. Asra smiled faintly. "No, it isn't. The final confrontation." The jungle itself seemed to react to the tension. The ground trembled, and vines writhed as if alive. Both teams knew the artifact would not be claimed without a fight. Ethan's team and the Zorians clashed, their battle a chaotic blend of brute strength and tactical ingenuity. Sarah used her blaster to hold back the Zorians, while Carlos and Emma worked on disabling the artifact's defensive field. Asra, watching from the sidelines, finally entered the fray. Her presence was overwhelming, her movements swift and precise. She knocked Sarah aside with a single strike, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "You've defied me long enough," she growled. Ethan, though terrified, stood his ground. "We're not backing down." The two leaders faced off, their clash echoing through the jungle. Ethan's quick thinking and Asra's raw power made for a tense and unpredictable battle. A clever victory. In the end, it was not strength but strategy that secured the humans' victory. While Ethan distracted Asra, Emma and Carlos managed to deactivate the artifact's defenses. The moment the field dropped, Sarah grabbed the orb and held it high. "It's over," Ethan said, breathing heavily as he backed away from Asra. The queen, her pride wounded but her composure intact, stepped back. "Perhaps," she said, her voice low, "but this is far from finished. The galaxy takes notice." As Ethan's team emerged from the jungle, artifact in hand, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The humans had won again, their resilience and ingenuity defying all expectations. For Queen Asura, the loss was personal. Yet, deep within her, a spark of something new began to grow, not hatred, but respect. The trial was far from over, and the humans knew that their greatest challenges were still to come. But for now, they had proven once again that they were a force to be reckoned with. The Game of Shadows. The Zorians had never faced an opponent like humanity. 3 victories in a row, each one more humiliating than the last, had shaken the foundations of their confidence. Queen Asura's patience was wearing thin, her pride tarnished in the eyes of the galaxy. For the next trial, she decided to take matters into her own hands. This time, there will be no maze, no obstacles to navigate, Asura declared, her voice icy with determination. This trial will test your ability to survive in the face of the unknown. Prepare yourselves, humans. You are stepping into the Game of Shadows. The arena dimmed, its walls dissolving into blackness. Slowly, a new environment materialized, a sprawling, desolate city bathed in eerie twilight. Crumbling buildings loomed overhead, their hollow windows like empty eyes. Shadows flickered unnaturally, moving against the faint light of an artificial moon. Ethan's team stood at the edge of the city, their breaths visible in the chilling air. "This place feels wrong," Sarah muttered, her hand instinctively resting on her blaster. "It's meant to," Ethan replied, scanning the darkened streets. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we're up against." "The rules of the shadows." Queen Asura's voice echoed through the void. "The rules are simple, find the beacon hidden within the city. But beware, the shadows are alive. They will hunt you, and they will adapt to your weaknesses. Survive if you can. Succeed if you dare." The Zorians, standing on the opposite side of the city, showed no hesitation. They moved with precision, their towering forms disappearing into the gloom. Ethan's team hesitated, their nerves fraying under the weight of the unknown. But Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "We've come this far. We don't stop now. Stay together, stay focused, and remember. Fear is the enemy." The City of Nightmares. As they entered the city, the team immediately felt the oppressive atmosphere. The air was cold, thick with the stench of decay. The shadows seemed to ripple, whispering unintelligible words that sent chills down their spines. "Keep moving," Emma said, clutching a portable scanner she had salvaged. "If the shadows are alive, we need to find their source. That might lead us to the beacon." Carlos, the engineer, pointed to a series of glowing symbols etched into the walls of a nearby building. "Those markings might be a clue," he said. The team approached cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the empty streets. But as they examined the symbols, the shadows around them began to shift. The first encounter. From the darkness, a figure emerged, a grotesque amalgamation of shadow and substance. Its limbs were unnaturally long, its eyes glowing with malevolent light. It moved with an eerie silence, its form constantly changing as if the shadows themselves were alive. "Move!" Ethan shouted, pulling his team back as the creature lunged. Sarah fired her blaster, the bright energy bolt slicing through the figure. For a moment, it seemed to dissipate, but then it reformed, its movements even more aggressive. "They're adapting," Emma said, her voice trembling. "They're feeding off the darkness." "Then we need light," Ethan replied, pulling a flare from his pack. He ignited it, the red glow illuminating the area and forcing the creature to retreat. The race against darkness. Realizing the importance of light, the team improvised. Carlos quickly rigged a series of makeshift torches using scrap materials, while Emma adjusted her scanner to emit pulses of UV light. Armed with their newfound defenses, the team pressed forward, navigating the treacherous city. Each corner brought new dangers, shadow creatures that grew more intelligent with each encounter, collapsing buildings that threatened to trap them, and whispers that tugged at their sanity. "We can't keep running," Sarah said, her voice strained. "We need to find the beacon before these things overwhelm us." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. The symbols. They're a map. Look, every time we see one, it's pointing toward the same direction. The Zorian struggle. On the other side of the city, the Zorians were faring no better. Their brute strength was useless against the intangible shadows, and their usual tactics of domination only seemed to anger the creatures. Several warriors had already fallen, dragged into the darkness without a sound. Queen Asura, watching the trial from above, clenched her fists. She had designed this challenge to favor her warriors, but the shadows were proving to be unpredictable even for her. The beacon's trap. Ethan's team finally reached the center of the city, where a massive tower loomed. At its peak, a bright light pulsed, the beacon they had been searching for. But as they approached, the shadows around them grew more aggressive, forming a massive wall of darkness that blocked their path. Emma quickly scanned the area. "There's a generator near the base of the tower," she said. "If we can power it up, it might disrupt the shadows long enough for us to get through." Carlos and Ethan worked together to repair the generator, their hands moving frantically as the shadow creatures closed in. Sarah and Emma defended them, using their torches and UV pulses to keep the creatures at bay. The final stand. The generator roared to life, flooding the area with bright light. The shadows recoiled, their forms dissolving into the air. Ethan and Sarah rushed toward the beacon, their hearts pounding. As Ethan reached out to grab the beacon, a final shadow creature lunged at him. Without hesitation, Sarah threw herself between them, her torch driving the creature back but leaving her vulnerable. "Go," she shouted, her voice strained. Ethan hesitated for a split second before seizing the beacon. The instant he did, the city began to crumble, its shadowy walls disintegrating. A narrow escape. The team barely made it out as the city collapsed behind them. They emerged into the arena, battered but alive, the beacon glowing in Ethan's hands. Queen Asura stared down at them, her expression unreadable. The Zorians had failed to retrieve the beacon, and once again, humanity had triumphed. "This isn't possible," Asura said, her voice low with disbelief. Ethan looked up at her, his gaze steady. "Strength can't conquer everything. Sometimes, you need to outthink the darkness." The galaxy watched in awe as humanity claimed yet another victory, their resilience and ingenuity shining brighter than ever. The Duel of Worlds. The galaxy was transfixed. Humanity, a species once dismissed as insignificant, had triumphed in 4 consecutive trials against the Zorians, the most feared warriors in existence. Queen Asura's face betrayed no emotion, but deep inside, her pride burned with frustration. Her warriors, once believed to be invincible, were now the subject of doubt. "It seems your species thrives on defiance," Asura said, her voice cold and calculating. "Very well. If you wish to continue playing this game, then I shall personally lead the next challenge. Let us see if your fragile ingenuity can stand against the will of a queen." The galaxy erupted in whispers as the announcement spread. For the first time in recorded history, the Zorian queen herself would step into the arena. The terms of the duel. The arena transformed into an expansive battlefield, one side representing the Zorian Empire with towering metallic obelisks, the other representing Earth, its terrain a mix of lush forests and resilient human architecture. "This challenge is unlike the others," Asura declared. "It is a test of leadership, strategy, and adaptability. 2 leaders, one human and one Zorian, will command their forces in a simulated war. Victory is achieved by outmaneuvering your opponent and claiming the opposing side's banner. Ethan," she said, her piercing eyes locking onto him, "will represent humanity." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. A war simulation. He wasn't a general. He had never commanded an army. But he also knew there was no choice. Humanity's survival depended on his ability to adapt, to think, and to lead. "I accept," Ethan said, stepping forward. "The army of ideas." Ethan's team gathered around him, their faces a mixture of concern and determination. The arena provided each leader with simulated soldiers, holographic warriors that acted based on their commander's decisions. "I don't know how to lead an army," Ethan admitted. "You don't need to be a soldier," Sarah said, her tone firm. "You just need to outthink her. Use what we have, play to our strengths, and trust us to execute the plan." Carlos examined the battlefield's holographic terrain. "Look at this. The Zorian side is built for power, open fields and strongholds. But our side? It's full of cover and choke points. If we use the environment, we can force them to fight on our terms." Ethan nodded, a plan beginning to form. "All right. Let's turn this battlefield into a maze for them. We'll make every step they take a calculated risk." Asura's unstoppable advance. The battle began, and the Zorian army surged forward like a tidal wave. Their soldiers, though holographic, moved with precision and power, demolishing obstacles and forcing their way toward the human side. Asura stood at the center of her command platform, her orders sharp and decisive. She deployed her forces with ruthless efficiency, overwhelming every initial line of defense Ethan's team had placed. "This is futile," Asura said, her voice echoing through the arena. "You cannot stand against the strength of Zorian tactics." But Ethan wasn't relying on strength. The trap is set. Ethan's forces retreated strategically, luring the Zorian army deeper into the dense forested terrain of the human side. Carlos and Emma had rigged traps, holographic pitfalls, collapsing structures, and ambush points. As the Zorians advanced, their numbers were whittled down. A towering holographic mech, the centerpiece of Asura's force, fell into a hidden trench, its simulated destruction triggering a wave of confusion among her ranks. Ethan seized the opportunity. "Now! Push forward!" His holographic soldiers surged out of cover, striking at the disoriented Zorians and forcing them to regroup. The Queen's counterattack. Asura, unfazed by the setback, adjusted her strategy. She deployed smaller, faster units to flank Ethan's forces, bypassing the traps and creating chaos within his ranks. "She's adapting," Emma said, her fingers flying over her command console. "We need to disrupt her coordination." Ethan thought for a moment. The obelisks on her side, they're her communication hubs. If we take them out, she won't be able to direct her forces as effectively. Sarah grinned. "Then let's give her something to worry about." A risky move. Ethan dispatched a small team to infiltrate the Zorian side, led by Sarah's holographic counterpart. Using the terrain as cover, they approached the obelisks undetected. Meanwhile, Ethan directed the main force to feign a full retreat, drawing Asura's attention away from the infiltration team. "Clever," Asura murmured, noticing the retreat. "But predictable." She ordered her forces to pursue, confident that victory was within her grasp. The banner falls. As the Zorians closed in on Ethan's retreating forces, Sarah's team reached the obelisks. Using a combination of explosives and precise strikes, they disabled the structures, causing a ripple of confusion among the Zorian army. Asura's holographic forces faltered, their movements erratic without her direct command. Ethan seized the moment, directing his soldiers to surge forward. With the Zorian army in disarray, Ethan's forces reached the enemy banner. A simulated flag rose high into the sky, signaling humanity's victory. A Queen's revelation. The arena fell silent as the simulation ended. Queen Asura stepped down from her command platform, her expression unreadable. "You've proven yourselves time and time again," she said, her voice quieter now. "Not with strength, but with ingenuity and adaptability. You fight not just to win, but to survive. And in that, you are unmatched." Ethan, still catching his breath, met her gaze. "We don't want to conquer," he said. "We just want to coexist." Asura studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Perhaps there is more to your species than I first believed. But know this, the final trial will be the ultimate test of your worth. As the arena faded and the teams returned to their stations, the galaxy buzzed with anticipation. Humanity had won again, but the endgame was drawing near. The trial of unity. The galaxy held its breath as the final trial was announced. This wasn't just a test of strength, intelligence, or endurance, it was a test of unity, of what it truly meant to stand together against impossible odds. Queen Asra's voice was uncharacteristically calm, almost reflective, as she addressed the arena. You have surprised me, humans. Time and again, you have proven that your weaknesses are your greatest strengths. But this final trial will determine if your unity is a facade or the very foundation of your survival. The challenge is simple, survive together or perish divided. The arena transformed one last time, revealing an otherworldly environment. Jagged cliffs floated above an endless void, connected by narrow bridges and platforms that shifted unpredictably. Gravity itself seemed unstable, pulling at odd angles. In the distance, an ominous spire rose into the swirling sky, glowing faintly with alien light. At the top of that spire lies your final objective, Asra continued. But reaching it will require every ounce of your will, your skill, and your trust in each other. The Zorians and humans will compete side by side. Only one team will succeed. The beginning of the end. Ethan's team exchanged wary glances. Competing alongside the Zorians added an unpredictable element. Would they cooperate? Or would this trial devolve into chaos? Stay close, Ethan said, his voice firm. This isn't just a race. This is about survival. Watch each other's backs. The Zorians, led personally by Queen Asra, stood stoically. Her warriors, though weary from their previous losses, radiated determination. They were here to prove themselves, and to reclaim their honor. The perilous ascent. The trial began with a deafening roar as the arena shifted, the platforms rearranging themselves in chaotic patterns. Ethan's team and the Zorians stepped cautiously onto the first bridge, which immediately began to crumble behind them. Move! Sarah shouted, her sharp instincts kicking in. The humans and Zorians leapt from platform to platform, their movements precise but tense. The unstable gravity made every step a challenge, pulling them in unexpected directions. A sudden tremor shook the arena, and a massive fissure split one of the platforms in half. A Zorian warrior stumbled, nearly falling into the void before Ethan instinctively reached out and grabbed their arm. Hold on. Ethan grunted, pulling the warrior to safety. The Zorian warrior looked at Ethan with a mix of confusion and gratitude. Queen Asra, watching from a distance, raised an eyebrow. The spire's guardians. As the teams approached the spire, the air grew heavier, crackling with energy. Suddenly, massive, mechanical creatures emerged from the shadows, guardians of the spire. Their glowing eyes scanned the intruders before charging with terrifying speed. The humans and Zorians fought side by side, their survival instincts overriding their rivalry. Sarah and a Zorian warrior worked in unison, using their combined strength to topple one of the machines, while Carlos and Emma disabled another by targeting its weak points. Queen Asra herself joined the fray, her movements swift and precise as she took down a guardian with a single, well-placed strike. Ethan noticed her efficiency and called out, "We need to coordinate. These things are too strong to fight separately." To his surprise, Asra nodded. Agreed. Form a perimeter. Humans, disable their cores. Zorians, hold the line. For the first time, the two teams worked together, their combined efforts dismantling the remaining guardians. The final challenge. The path to the spire's summit was revealed, a narrow staircase spiraling upward, surrounded by swirling energy that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As they ascended, the gravity shifted again, pulling them sideways and forcing them to climb at impossible angles. Midway up, the spire itself began to react to their presence. Pulses of energy shot out, creating barriers that had to be navigated with precision. Emma quickly analyzed the patterns. The pulses are timed. If we move in sync, we can avoid them. Ethan relayed her instructions, and the group moved as one, timing their steps perfectly. Even the Zorians followed without hesitation, their respect for the humans growing with each passing moment. Reaching the summit. At the summit of the spire, a single, glowing crystal hovered in the air, pulsing with a deep, rhythmic hum. This was the final objective, the symbol of victory. But as they approached, the spire began to collapse, its energy destabilizing. The ground beneath them cracked and splintered, and the crystal started to fall into the void. Ethan and Asura both lunged for it at the same time. Ethan reached it first but lost his balance, the unstable gravity pulling him dangerously close to the edge. For a moment, it seemed he would fall, but Asura caught his arm, her grip firm. She pulled him back to safety, her expression unreadable. "Why did you help me?" Ethan asked, stunned. Asura's gaze softened, just for a moment. "Because strength alone does not win battles. Unity does. A new beginning." The trial ended, and the arena faded, leaving both teams standing in the neutral zone. The crystal, glowing softly, rested in Ethan's hands. Queen Asura stepped forward, her towering presence as commanding as ever. But instead of anger or disappointment, there was something new in her eyes, respect. "You have proven yourselves worthy," she said, her voice carrying a weight that silenced the entire galaxy. "Not because you are the strongest or the smartest, but because you understand what it means to stand together. Humanity has earned its place among the stars." The galaxy erupted in cheers, and for the first time in recorded history, the Zorians extended an offer of alliance instead of conquest. Ethan, still holding the crystal, turned to his team and smiled. "We did it. Together." And as humanity looked to the stars, they knew this was only the beginning of a new era, one where unity, not division, would define their destiny.